One of the most controversial items in Hardcore Classic WoW is the Flask of Petrification. This is an item created by alchemists of a skill level of 300 and requires a Black Lotus to craft. It basically turns you immune for 1 minute, but in that 1 minute you can't move, do any attacks or cast any spells. When in an instance, this can be combined with leaving a group and triggering the 60-second countdown before you get sent back to your home city, effectively becoming a bubble halfstone. A lot of the raiders at 60 in Hardcore Classic pretty much have Flask of Petrification as a must-have, so that if it looks like there is some danger that this could be a wipe, everybody just uses this item and halves out. As you can see in this clip, this raider Molten Core pulls a bit too much trash, and they decide that sticking this out and trying to fight makes this a bit too risky, so they use the Flask of Petrification and halfstone out, kind of like the bubble half that paladins have. However, unlike bubble halving, this is actually allowed by the rules of Classic Hardcore. If you look at the Classic Hardcore rules, it clearly states that you cannot use bubble half because it's just a bit too OP as a get out of jail free card. However, this is allowed, which definitely raises some questions. If bubble halving isn't allowed, which is class specific, surely this should not be allowed, considering that literally any character can do this. In my opinion, I think the rules should be amended to one of these two things. Either bubble half is now allowed because you can effectively do the same thing with Flask of Petrification, or they make the use of Flask of Petrification and halfstone disallowed, because logically it doesn't really make sense for one to be banned and for another thing which is effectively the same thing to be allowed. This kind of goes against the spirit of Hardcore Classic in my opinion. I'm not begrudging the players for using this is actually quite a genius use of game mechanics, but the use of this has some pretty negative implications on Classic Hardcore in my opinion. It essentially takes a lot of the tense focus that you would have raiding in Hardcore to a much more carefree attitude, because you know that if things look like they're about to go south, everybody can just go back to Ironforge or Orgrimmar. Another thing is that it basically press gangs everybody else into getting alchemy, because like in this clip, there are a few people that don't have Flask of Petrification. The mobs then turn their aggro to the people that didn't use it. If other people are using Flask of Petrification, you absolutely have to do it as well, otherwise your character is going to die, just based on how the metagame is going to obviously shift. And remember, this is in the context of the rules that doesn't allow for you to use bubble half as a paladin, so surely this should also not be allowed. Or vice versa, bubble halving should now be allowed if this is going to be the norm. I think that's just common sense in my opinion, but let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think about this item and how it's used? I'll see you in the next video.